We're alive. We're live. We think we're live.
We're alive and we're not laid off yet.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to lay yourself off, right?
Yeah, I don't want to make light of everybody getting laid off, but I think the reasons for it are so stupid to me at this point that I'm just like, you kind of have to laugh at it because it's absurd. But for folks who aren't following tech news or the news, period, um, been a lot of layoffs in tech and also just in other industries, and everybody's claiming AI is taking the jobs and it's so much better and it's the same fucking narrative that we've heard this whole time that we've been
For
um
all technologies too, or all the
yeah
big technologies. Yeah.
yeah to some extent, but it this there's the new fad now is to lay off a bunch of people and claim AI. And so I thought it'd be good to kind of talk through that a little bit. um and then why I think it's actually still a great technology, and I think it's still one of the most powerful things we have, but not for the reasons that I keep hearing. And it's frustrating for me because it's like it's preventing people from like really leveraging it or really using it because they think it should be some just magic do all tool, and it's not.
Mhm.
And it's how you interact with it. And like just as we were kind of talking about before I hit the double live button, uh it's
Double
a
A
lot
life.
in how you
Yeah.
what process you use or how you interact with it that really matters. So um the if I think just generally speaking, I look at this in a few different ways that AI, so you have different types of AI. For generative AI, there's a different ways to interface with it. There's a lot of really great uses of AI in backend applications that never really see a user. There's the common way that most people interact with this stuff is through chat, and you're kind of going back and forth turn by turn. And then there's this agentic AI, which has become the big craze with things like OpenClaw, that kind of stuff, where
Mhm.
you give AI some instructions, it does interpretations, it goes and does stuff, uses
Yep.
tools, builds code, whatever you're trying to do. Um, and there's some other kind of pieces in there too, but I think those are like the big ones folks are probably
Yeah, I
familiar
was gonna
with.
say we should define what AI is here because
Yeah.
as people in tech, AI has multiple meanings, but
And I
most
think when
recently
people,
it's been the
yeah, and I think
agentic.
when, sorry, yeah, I think people really think that the chat prompt is replacing the people, is going to replace the people, and that's not
Yeah,
it.
it's a good point. Right, right.
Yeah,
It's a good call out. Good call out. Yeah.
the revolution that we saw in the last what 2 to 3 months,
2 months. Yeah,
November,
18 months.
December-ish, and with much better models being released from everyone, much more capable. You'll see that in the chat prompt, right? You get better answers on your search or whatever you're trying to do. But you also, with this age of agentification of things,
Hmm.
giving the models the capability to run software, to restart services, to test their code, to interact with, other apps, that kind of stuff, has really changed the capabilities that they can do. And so instead of you having to copy and paste a bunch of stuff, now you can, just have it go get the doc and do the modification or whatever you're trying to do.
Yep.
And so I think that coupled with the better models has really convinced a lot of people who don't know how things happen, aka how the work gets done, to think that they can just replace a bunch of people because they can vibe code a feature in a couple
Mhm.
hours and it takes the engineering team 2 weeks to implement, right? And we've talked about this on the podcast before quite a bit, but it's always harder to scale, it's always harder to support, it's always harder to do all this other stuff than just like a one shot thing. It's always hard to integrate too because there's always stuff that changes that you don't account for. But the that's the narrative, right? Is that AI is going
Mhm.
to replace the jobs. And I use AI literally every day. Every
I
day.
think I do too. Yeah, I think I
I
do as
work
well.
I
Yeah.
work 7 days a week. Not always a full day, but like there's I'm almost I was just looking at my Git commits today.
I mean, those. I think everywhere those have been inflated, depending on how you want to look at it. But
Oh, well,
yeah.
that's interesting. So my Git commits are only Git commits that I push. I don't let the agents commit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a trend of people just so it's interesting. You can
Yeah.
see agents
Productivity
themselves.
measurement.
Well, that's So I think the two sides of that is like one is yes, you show that you're more productive, but two is like if you have agents actually doing the commits, you can actually trace back to what something was added by either a human or a machine. I think that was at least the intention for
Yeah.
having AI be able to make their own commits, but also to be agentic, where you don't have to review the PR, you just let it do the
Yeah.
commits, merge the PR in, and kind of backtrack
Well,
if you need to.
I find the PRs are usually shit.
By the ones that are created by agents.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So that's interesting. I think we should talk through that a little bit more, but I want to finish the point on this because
Sure.
uh, it's the people who don't do the work or don't know how the work is done or live in the high level abstract that are making the decisions that, and then claiming that AI is more capable than it is. Like, again, I use this every day. I've built AI, I build with AI. It's not there yet. It's nowhere close, but it's really great. It's a huge lever on people. And like we've talked about, I think in the past, I think there's a coefficient of 10 engineers with AI that know how to use AI and have deployed AI, probably double, maybe triple the
Mhm.
impact depending on what you're trying to build, depending on their proficiency, their skill level, etc. Doesn't replace your 10 engineers though.
Yeah, right.
And that's the judgment piece. It's also you just run into weird capability problems with AI. Like some days it'll absolutely crush stuff with for me where I'm just like, I text you and be like, oh my God, it just did this thing. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
how did
yeah,
it even
yeah,
like, and then other days it
yeah.
can't get a button on a web page,
Yeah,
and I have all these fancy workflows and self-correcting mechanisms and regression tests and all this shit. And then it just decides to make up the past test and move on. And then everything
yeah,
blows up and I spend an hour trying to, revert or like fix the problem.
right.
And so you could argue that that's how humans work too, but anybody who's somewhat proficient in their job isn't going to make those types of mistakes a lot. Like you make them like once in a while, but you're probably going to catch them sooner.
Mm,
And then, so, so that's just, it's just not real. And it just, I'm just so done with it. And it just pisses me off because the people who hired all these people that are being laid off are not getting themselves laid off. And it's a lack of
mm,
accountability with managerial folks because your job is supposed to be run a company. It's supposed to be to run the company effectively. It's supposed to be efficient. And when you overhire, you didn't do your job. So you should also get laid off,
mm.
and there should be punishment for that. This idea that you get the next quarterly bonus because you laid off like there shouldn't be any bonuses for like 2 years, and there should be a penalty. And there's a big caveat here where the whole point of a layoff is supposed to be if a business line changes, massive disruption in the economy, all of a sudden we have flying cars and automotive driving is no longer a thing, so you have to lay off all the tire people because we don't have tires anymore. I'm not saying you should have to keep people employed for the sake of employment, but a lot of these companies, not all of them, but a lot of them have jobs open. And instead of retraining people or moving people that are already familiar with your company, who already know what's going on in the company, who already have the relationships, you just cast them out.
Mm.
And there are instances where you want new people and you want new ideas for sure. But the AI is going to take over everyone's job, then why are you still hiring for engineers? Why are you still hiring marketers? But you just laid off half the marketing team.
Yeah,
It doesn't, it's not honest, right? And there's reasons that people are getting laid off. Maybe they suck more realistically and much more
but yeah,
likely. Well, hey,
you, you can't fire a bunch of people and say they all sucked.
not everyone is a high performer, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And you
sure.
should be fired if you're not performing where you need to be performing. You get fired, right? And you shouldn't just be fired overnight. Like the company needs to like work with you to try to help you get better.
Yeah,
And anyone
performance
who
plans
employs
and yeah.
people knows that you want to invest in your employees and make them better. You hired them in the first place. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole thing is nutty to me, but it's but it's just so dishonest. Like there are, so okay, why do people get laid off? People suck. They're just bad. Massive economic shift. Uh Change, reorganization is always my favorite like
Mhm.
excuse.
Excuse.
When
Yeah, yeah.
when you
We're doing
when
a
you
reorg. Yeah.
reorganize, it should be intelligent. You should have a plan. We are moving from car tires to truck tires and no longer need as many people. We are moving from car tires to jet engines, and we need a whole new
Mhm.
workforce now, right? But oftentimes it's we're going to lay off a bunch of people, and then anyone who's ever made it through one of these, then it's 6 months of constantly reshuffling and restructuring because there clearly was no plan, and everyone says there was a plan, but it's bullshit because you just end up trying a bunch of different things organizationally then to try to find the right fit. Not to say that you can nail it on the first
I
time,
was gonna say
but
that was part of the plan.
if you're 10 levels
Move
of
things
deviate,
until it fits.
right,
Yeah.
from where you started or where you said you were going to be, then it's just bullshit anyway. But be honest about it. Restructurings, company just isn't doing well, and you just like you had
Mhm.
bad
You
quarters, you
gotta
made some
downsize. Yeah.
mistakes, right? There isn't money to hire or keep people hired, and the company goes out of business unless you lay off people. Like those always suck, and most people don't usually like them. But again, who's in charge of making those decisions for profitability and running the profits? Who then gets laid off? The people who are supposed to be doing the work or most likely doing the best job that they can.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I just want to acknowledge that. Again, I'm not like anti layoff. I'm anti dishonest layoff. And this AI
Yeah.
laying off for AI's sake is just bullshit.
Yeah, it's hard to know whether those, announcements citing AI are either techno optimism, right? That
Hmm.
you said economic shifts, huge economic shifts. Some people actually believe that AI is a huge economic shift, right? So they feel justified in saying that, oh, we need to adapt to the times, therefore
Yeah.
we have to lay off a bunch of people. Uh, I don't know if you can really blame someone for believing that. Maybe they're just ignorant, or they truly do believe that
They can
there's some
believe
coming.
whatever they want, but they shouldn't be
Yeah, yeah,
managing a company,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because if you're making decisions on hopes and dreams, anyone can do that.
yeah.
You're not really managing, you're not really leading at that point. Like you need some data. And yeah, there's a lot of gut in just 2026, right? There's a lot of things that we all taken for granted that don't seem to be true anymore. However, you still have to like have that hypothesis and then have some sort of way to know that it succeeded or not, and to just lay off a large percentage of your company and say, well, we're going to be just as efficient or more. That that's a hell of a predictor, but then you will then also have to come back the next quarter and say our productivity has grown. Our, you know, you can't talk about profitability because you just got rid of a bunch of cost. People are cost, right? You get
Yeah, yeah.
cost money, you get paid a salary, but then you better be acquiring twice as many customers. You better be closing twice as many deals. You should see bookings. You should see growth. You should see all these other indicators, but nobody ever points to, well, not nobody. Most people never report those or point to those. It's always profitability. Well, of course you're more profitable the next
Mm.
quarter because you just got rid of 20% of your company, 10% of your company. You should be, proportionally much more
Sure.
profitable.
Yeah, you fudge numbers in such that, yes, of
Right.
course, you're more profitable. Well, okay, I'm going to play the bad guy here, and
Do
I will
it.
express these are not specifically my viewpoints, but I think last week we talked about when you burn it all down, right?
Yes.
There, I don't think that we disagree on the idea that AI nowadays, you sort of have to adapt to the way that the world is working with
Mhm.
AI, right? And
100%.
there's a paradigm shift. There's a paradigm shift there. So in the if you need to make that adaptation, maybe some people would come to the conclusion of I need to burn this down, start fresh, because that's the quickest way to adapt rather than to draw it out, to try to upskill, which takes time, which takes
Yeah.
effort and money. Um, it's maybe not doing the right by your employees or the people that you hired in the first place. But if it's for the benefit of the organization, which then can employ more people in the long run, if you become more successful, then maybe it's worth it to rip the band-aid off
Yeah. That's a terrible idea
now. Okay, why?
because AI is not magic,
Sure.
right? For some of the things that I said, a few minutes ago, if you want to apply AI to your current business, you need to train the AI, you need to develop workflows, you need to develop, parameters, you need to develop a lot of those process points that people don't do well anyway, that most companies don't execute on well. Because if AI doesn't have a way to validate its output, it's pretty much useless because it's a
Yeah.
probabilistical stats machine, which means it's just going to invent the most likely scenario coming out. And there's ways around this, and there's ways to ground this, but it's not foolproof, and that's what transformer technology does. And so I've talked about this quite a bit on the podcast as well. It's like you don't want to just manufacture your earnings report, for example.
Yeah. Right.
But how do you know what the earnings report data is? Well, a lot of people do a lot of math, they do a lot of data analysis to try to figure out what your sales were, what your costs, all this kind of accounting stuff, and business analysis, all this crap. The the thing that I hear the most from the managerial folks is that, well, AI just makes it faster. Okay,
Mm.
sure. I can see where if you have, let's just say 20 financial analysts or auditors or whatever, and you give them AI, sure, maybe you can cut half of them and still be as productive. I'm very dubious on that drastic of a cut based on just literally my day-to-day life. But there's definitely, 10, 15, 20% pretty believable. But
Mhm.
that doesn't apply equally across the whole company. And more importantly, how does the AI know that it got to the right answer? How does the AI know that it followed the right process? And that's where the people come in.
Yeah.
And so if your ethos is that we need, in order to use this magic technology, which isn't magic, you're already wrong. Two, the only way that it actually works is that you lever people and process. You still have to have
Mm.
human in the loop, like 99% of the time. Like there are ways you can do back end builds. Like we were talking about something off air that I don't
Yeah.
know what the fuck's going on, but it works. But I'm still constantly tweaking it because I know what the output needs to be. It's a little bit fuzzy because there isn't a real defined output, but I'm like steering it. But the point is it's like I didn't just fire my entire team because AI can do some code.
Mhm.
And I,
Mhm.
I think that's the misnomer. And the I guess third part here, coding is like the perfect use for AI in some regards because you have to
I agree.
generate an unknown kind of pathway to the answer. Almost all the code that you can run on AI will run and you can validate it immediately.
You can verify it.
That's
Yeah.
not your quarterly financial report, right? If you
Yeah.
run the quarterly financial report, it doesn't seg fault and crash, or it doesn't display a pretty picture on a website, right?
Syntax error.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
programming has all of these checks and balances and guardrails built into it, period. And then you typically have a user validation or user step in there that it's really obvious if it works or not. And so you can
Mhm.
have it run, it can run against all these tests and this, it doesn't do it all perfectly all the time, but it's pretty low box. That doesn't apply to nearly any other professional job. Sure, there's
Mhm.
policies, sure, there's procedures, but those are very ambiguous, even with people. And you can't, again, generate an earnings report based on all of the past spreadsheets in your company, probably,
Mhm.
right? And like, can it help somebody do a better job? Yes, it can. It's much more efficient and it can help you efficiently, but it doesn't replace your financial auditing team. And so I suspect a lot of these layoffs, kind of to your point, are around we're just going to get rid of the low performers or the people we don't like as part and then call it AI layoff and then just kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
see what happens. And we can always hire more people back because we're profitable. We have a bunch of money.
I mean, that happens in the natural cycle without AI anyway, right?
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that either. But like,
Mhm.
let's be honest about it then, right? We have
Mhm.
this tremendous tool. It provides tremendous leverage. It's not magic. It's not
Mhm.
going to just do everything for us. But, we don't need as many people now. But that somehow is like cold and dark. And I'm just like, so lying
Yeah.
about AI taking your job makes you feel better when you get laid off? Of course it doesn't.
Mm.
And not that I think being honest with just like, we don't need you anymore is any like less irritating.
Cold or yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then I think it destigmatizes this whole thing. Right. And like in other
Yes.
countries, they call it redundancies typically, where something has come along where we don't need you anymore. And
Mhm.
that could be a business whatever reasoning, but and everybody just kind of understands, oh, it's not necessarily you, it's just the company changed and then you go get a different job and it's fine. But I feel like in America specifically, it's like you get laid off, there's this huge stigma that you sucked or you were bad at your job or like couldn't hack it and stay or
Mhm.
whatever
Mhm.
people think. and it's just nonsense. It's almost always, you know, some kind of spreadsheet, and somebody who has no idea what you do, has no idea what you're supposed to do, has no idea what you're capable of, getting rid of you. Sometimes it's your manager, and sometimes they're playing strategic positions, but a lot of times, and especially the recent trend seems to be super high level, massive headcount reduction across like an org or a department, or it's just like, here's the people that are gone.
Mhm.
That doesn't make the headlines, but that's what's happening, at least from what people are
Yeah, yeah,
telling me who have been on both sides of this.
sure, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I've heard similar. I can't say the exact same, but
Yeah.
yeah, this expectation that AI is magic and can do things.
Well, and
Um,
my litmus test for this is like startups, right? So like, if AI could just do all this work and you just have to have the magic playbook or the magic formula, where's all the solo founders? Where's like, oh, I don't need my engineering team, which is incredibly expensive. I have some seed
yeah.
capital. I'm just going to go YOLO lead code this myself. No, it's not real. Like again, there's been a couple predominant startups in the news that have reduced people. Um, I'm gonna mention Dig because
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
lost a lot of respect
Mm,
for Kevin Rose on this. So for folks who don't know, dig.com was Reddit before Reddit.
mm.
Back in the
Back
day,
in
it
the
was,
day,
yeah, it
yeah,
was the
yeah.
front page of the internet. The thing that made Dig very different, I think, was that it was kind of a populist feed. So it was like whatever people are interested in was like what was on the front page, and then there was these kind of like niches that you could get in. I don't remember what they call them. There's some name for it. It's basically like a community, a Reddit community or whatever.
Yeah.
They sold it, they cashed out, it went to shit. Reddit came along, got more popular. There was a they brought it out of retirement a few months ago in the beta, and they made it a beta, and they were kind of mixing the old school Dig way with some new technology and AI and stuff. I was in the beta for transparency purposes, I guess. I thought it was pretty good. They abruptly pulled the plug,
Mhm.
and I tried to log in, I couldn't, and I was like, "What the fuck? It must be broken. Whatever. It's a beta. You know, I'll come back a couple days later.
There's some
Still,
AI must have broke it.
yeah, right. Like that's happened quite a bit too.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Amazon went through that where they did
Yeah,
an
yeah, I was
oopsie.
gonna mention that, yeah.
Meta had
Yeah,
an
yeah.
oopsie
Mhm.
where they did some real big damage because the AI said so. Again, you can't outsource your judgment to AI. This None of this is surprising to me, and I'm more surprised people are still surprised by it. But so anyway, the Dig thing, and so I was like, what the fuck? So I like deleted the app and then tried to reinstall the app. It wasn't in the app store anymore. So
Oh, wow. I
I
didn't know that.
Googled,
Okay.
like, I went to dig.com on the thing, and they had this like kind of weirdly written, like, we're shutting down the beta, we're
Mm.
going to retool
Mhm.
and blah, blah, blah. And then they have a podcast called Dig Nation, and they talk about usually stories from Dig. Well, you don't do that anymore because Dig doesn't exist.
Mm.
Uh, but the the rationale for this is what really bothers me was that I'll call it an excuse, was that they were going to reinvent uh, AI moderation. Basically, it was going to be part of this platform to try to keep spam and low quality crap off. They claimed that they had such a rampant AI problem that it was just too impossible to fix.
Mm.
And so they decided to close, and then they laid off seemingly everybody other than maybe one or two people. And I don't know how many people were there, 15, 20 probably, but like, um, and then but then they claim that they're going to have a smaller team and they're going to use AI and it's going to make the platform even better. And
Yeah,
that part
yeah.
of it was retooling because now AI does all the magic stuff. And I think what was really telling to me about that though is like, if you're going to shut down or stop the beta or whatever, send out an email and let people even know. There was no notification. Your
Oh,
site
I
just
see.
goes dark.
Yeah.
That to me
Or
signals much deeper problems than
mhm.
like whatever happened. And my hypothesis on this is that and they kind of talked about this a little bit on Dignation, that the market fit wasn't what they thought it would be. They had somewhere around probably 70,000 or so odd folks on the platform for the beta, which I think was 3 or 4 months in
Mhm.
public beta. I don't know how you actually got in, but anyway. Uh, But I think for a social media platform to be successful from any sort of investment perspective, you're needing like
Millions.
hundreds of thousands,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
millions of users
yeah.
signed up, and then you're looking for high engagement in whatever
Mhm,
monthly, daily, metrics. That wasn't there.
mm,
And so that's what I suspect. But again, oh, AI bots ruined our company. So now we're going to use AI to fix the company better. So, and again, I don't have any inside information. I don't know what's true. I just know what has been stated doesn't make any fucking sense.
mm, mm.
So I'm
Well,
putting it in
I
the
wonder if any
pile of AI bullshit.
it's a big file, man.
I know, right? It's growing. So I don't know. I wish him the
Yeah,
best. I really like Dig for the record. And I thought again, the beta was like, yeah, it's a little janky, but that's how all beta, early stage shit
right.
is. But to just abruptly, and it was ironic because like I Googled it then. I was like, what the hell? Why is it gone? Reddit, ironically, was the number one result. And so there's a
Everyone
Reddit
migrated to Reddit?
right? So there's a huge
Yeah,
Reddit community where there's a lot of really mad people. And I am not a Reddit
yeah,
person. I know about it. I've used it a little bit. I can't be bothered, but
yeah.
I just thought it was hilarious too that like the competitor, they were going to take out Reddit is like where everyone's like, I found out about this from Reddit. I found out about this from
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. So I lost a lot of respect. So Kevin Rose was the
Mm,
co-founder back in the day. He's founding it now. Um, and I think like whatever the truth is, it's probably a little bit of everything in there. But again,
mhm.
just like closing down the thing and not having any notification or pop up a thing in the app when I go to log in instead of just the login portal. Like if you
Yeah.
can't, and Kevin Rowe's been in the industry for a long time. A lot of people on
Mhm.
the team were senior. This isn't like a bunch of college kids or high school kids, coming with no real world experience. Like you put up some sort of a notification. We're closing the beta for now, or what, but everybody was just left in the lurch overnight, which really feels like it was a funding problem,
Mm,
right?
interesting.
They
I was
publicly
gonna
said it
say,
wasn't, but it feels like a funding problem.
yeah, yeah, and again, there's public information, or the information that gets published, you never really know what the truth is.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but the key is don't use AI as the excuse. Right?
That's what I keep. Yeah, no, 100%. And like, I know like, I have a hard stop here, but, the way that you use AI really does matter. And we did touch on that a little bit. We've been talking about doing a live stream where we do some like real life AI coding with like our full
You
process.
did do one. You did do one kind of, didn't you?
I was mostly just using Gemini. Like
I mean,
I
that's
was,
more than I think a lot of people are already
or
using.
sorry, I was using anti-gravity. No,
Anti-gravity.
100%.
Yeah, yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I used it because it's much different than Claude Code. It's much more user friendly for people who are
Mhm.
not expecting a command line. I really like the plan process and feedback loop process that they have built
Yeah,
into
yeah,
the UI. It's awesome. It's what I would do as a
yeah.
product manager in the before times. Now I'd probably just send a PR out or probably send a PR. I would probably send a PR. I probably shouldn't, but I probably would. Be like, hey, why don't we just do this?
Yeah,
My engineer team would be like, great, that's like 2 quarters of work.
yeah, yeah. But with
but
AI, it'd be like three.
yeah, but it it's and again, that's what kind of drives me insane with the people who are using AI as an excuse to get rid of people now is that AI is a tremendous lever. So if your company is profitable at 1,000 people and AI is even just 5% better for everyone, right? Like your
Right,
HR
right.
person who does performance reports and staffing, whatever HR people do, not super technical. Like there's a lot of software, but it's like they can if they can get 5% out of AI and it's $20 a month, that's a huge performance.
Yep.
A
Right.
lot of people focus on coding. There's a lot of really great uses for AI in just
Absolutely.
general business environment, but again, it's how you use it.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people just being like, well, it can do my job, so I do it. And then it doesn't work. And then they walk away, or the manager will like do some big report and be like, oh, it took you 2 weeks to do this. I did it with AI in 10 minutes. And it's like, yeah, well, is it really good
Mm.
though?
Yeah, yeah. Right, right. Quality's not quite there. Yeah.
Um, and I think the better way to like do that is to just show it.
Show AI working the way.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of interesting because like we've talked about this a little bit. I like think it'd be really kind of interesting to build a thing without a process, just using like a prompt or like tool of choice, like ungrounded, and then
Okay.
build something with like your standard process or like a, maybe a dumbed down process a little bit for stream. You can't probably do everything, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, right? I think finding the idea or the thing to build out, it'd be nice to build something that was interesting to the
yeah,
audience, and not just something that we wanted to build, or at least to demonstrate like how that process is done when you're given an idea. It's like not your own
yeah,
idea, right? Because again, with AI in your own head, you can build anything you want. But if someone gives you
yeah.
a task and you build it with AI, it's a little bit different.
Well, and I think it's partly how you approach the build. Like we were talking about
Mhm.
this off stream, and I think I should make the point that um, how we break down problems or think about what's important as people who build software is very different than somebody who's just
Yeah.
using AI to build an app. There's nothing wrong with that, but what
Hmm.
I'm trying to kind of expose is like the craft of software development or the craft of product.
The art
And this
of,
is,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's going to be much better. And then if you
yeah.
run it through a product development process as you're building, you're going to get a much, much, much
Hmm.
better result than even doing that. And I think that's what I want to kind of dismel is like, what would take me a team of maybe 4 engineers and a really good designer. A lot of that stuff now can be done with like me building just like kind of a crappy MVP.
I mean, you're kind of doing it already, right?
Yeah, and work with like the AI for, a little bit, and then you hand it over to the team, and then it's they still do the work, they still um improve it, but you break down a lot of that kind of context building within the
Initial barrier,
team and
right?
like the knowledge
Hmm.
exchange, and then it
Hmm.
becomes much more like jump in, iterate, refine, versus like we have to get everyone on the same page from their perspective. And like that's not a bad thing, it's just like that's just part of working with other people. But it's way easier to say, hey, here's this kind of crazy idea that I heard from a customer, let's look at it, and then we can say, it's really bad, or oh well, if we put our design on here, it'd actually be really good. And like we can't do these features at scale today, but we could totally build that in, and like
Hmm.
that's the result you want. Okay, that'll take however long to scale the systems, or we have to go do whatever, right? Which is really, I think, the greatest piece of this. It's
Yeah,
so much more fun to build with AI, I think.
as yeah, as someone who builds with AI, right? Yeah.
I know, right? Instead of having to like sit in meetings about fucking words.
You hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah. But that again, it's not replacing the team, it's not replacing everybody, but instead of 5 engineers, maybe we need 3, but we still have to come together with those perspectives and those specialties and those skills, because even if AI gets 80% of the way there, if you can then give that to another human, instead of them working on the 80%, they can now start to refine that 20%. And that 20% is always the hard part. It's always the stuff that takes the longest, but it's also how you make something that's really great, awesome, or
Mhm.
exceptional, or the one thing you have to have, or the one app that is so much better than everything else. Like it's really easy to put out crappy shit with AI and be like, "Oh, I did it." It's still pretty hard to come out with something really good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, trying to get the signal to noise ratio for engineers, like getting the right thing to build is the key part. But once you hit that, then the amplifier makes that shine, right? Um,
Yeah. That's a good
yeah,
way to leave
and
it.
then awesome, cool. All right,
Happy Friday.
yeah. Have a nice weekend.